Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Thank you for being with us. I'm going to start in just one moment. Ay, 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 mama, ta-da-da-da-da, ay, mama, ay, ay, di-di-da, mama, mama, ay, 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 mama. Da 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 ya ay mama ay mama bim ay da 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 mama ay oh yo ay da dum ayam mim ay da do da 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 dum ay ay vey da da maya ayam ayam mama mama oy 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 vey da da maya mama ayam mama oy 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 ay 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 mama mama ay 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 da 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 ay ay dai 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 dum ay ay mama mama ay da do da da dum oh yo Shalom Aleichem, dearest friends. Tonight we're going to be learning something that's very, very shaykh to the times. Very much has to do with this very powerful week that we're in, the week of Tisha B'Av, in the heart of the 9 days. And today was the Arizal's Yortzeit, and all these things coming together at once really present before us an amazing opportunity to learn about something that has tremendous, tremendous importance in our tradition, and specifically during this week, like we said before. Now, I already want to say at the get-go that we're only going to be scratching the surface. There's much more to discuss in this topic, much, much more. I would highly recommend the book from Breslov Research Institute called The Sweetest Hour in order to delve deeper into the teachings that we're going to be speaking about. And we're going to be talking about something that I'm sure you've heard the word quite often, but I'm sure that maybe you've thought, well, I'm supposed to already understand how this works. I'm supposed to know like what this means. But lo ein habaishan lamed, the shy person does not learn. And what's that? That's called tikkun chatzot. When you say the word tikkun chatzot, that generally means waking up in the middle of the night to cry over the Beis HaMikdash. But it's not just, as straightforward as that. There's a lot in here. And the question of, well, what if I can't get up in the middle of the night? Can I do it another time? Should I be crying? What if I'm not crying? What does it mean to lament over the Holy Temple? And so much more. So this evening, what I want to do is just learn a little bit what these words mean. And of course, base it all on Rabbi Nachman. Recently, we were learning about a tzaddik named Rebbe Yitzchak Bender. I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was his yortzeit. And Rebbe Yitzchak Bender, one of the leading figures in Breslov, didn't miss waking up for Chatzos for 70 years. Some of us are still trying to figure out how to do that, one night in our lives, to get up in the middle of the night. Or even if I'm up in the middle of the night, I didn't get up, but to stop whatever I'm doing at 12:30, 1:30, whatever that is, and start crying over the Beis HaMikdash. So first of all, where does this come from? Where does the language come from? Let's speak for a second about the word midnight in Hebrew, because it's a very fascinating word. Midnight in Hebrew means chatzot. Also, during the day, chatzot hayom. So chatzot halayla is midnight. And what's the root word of chatzot? Chatza, chet tzadik he, which means to cut into. Lachtzot, to cut into two. So when I say chatzot halayla, we're speaking about this midpoint of the night. It's that exact moment that the night splits to two. Do we know exactly when this moment is? We don't know exactly, and that's why when Moshe Rabbeinu was told to take the Yidden out of Mitzrayim, kechatzot halayla, the language there is like he was going to do it as close as he could to this midnight, to this moment, kechatzot halayla. But we're referring to the midpoint of the night, wherever this moment is. So what does it mean that the night has a middle point, and what do I care? And what's so significant about the middle point, the night, the moment that the night is cut into two? We're going to see something very special. According to our great sages, Chatzot is a moment of chen, it's a moment of grace, of chesed. Why? Because if the night, the beginning of the night, is all about getting darker, 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 and darker, when I split the night into two, so what begins to happen the moment I split it? I'm beginning going towards light. It's the start of Geula, it's the start of redemption. This happens every single night. So our sages explain that the moment that the journey towards light begins, that moment is a very big Eis Ratzon. It's a time when the gates are open, and there's a unique opportunity for some spiritual rectification, for tikkunim. And this is not something we, just decided on our own. Obviously, where is this rooted? We all know how the Gemara in the Tractate of Brachos tells us about King David's harp. That King David's harp was lying right above his head, and it was hung over his bed. And every night at this moment, by itself from the wind that would come inside, thus causing David HaMelech to wake up and begin to learn and sing until dawn. So on a psychological level, I think it's very clear that the moment that a person stops thinking negatively, or the moment that a person is actually able to see a ray of light in his tunnel of darkness, that moment, if he doesn't run on it, if he doesn't take advantage of it, it'll be the biggest shame. What a loss it would be. What we call in Hebrew a fisfus. It's like such a miss. So we want to grab hold of moments from within our darkness, which begin to speak about light. That's what Chatzot is. That cuts the night into two. It's that moment in the middle. And from there on, you're only going towards light. So if this was such an important thing, an important time, you would think that our sages of blessed memory would have made it an obligation. There should have been a chiyuv. Should have been an obligation. A person has to take advantage of this. But you can't make this. It's not a duty. It's not an obligation. But it's more this labor of love for anyone who truly yearns to know Hashem and to feel pain over the things that are still hidden from him. So you see, everything we set up until now sounds like a beautiful thing. It doesn't sound like it's necessarily has anything to do with crying for Beis HaMikdash or being in pain over anything. It just seems like, oh, it's a time that the night begins to shine. It's a moment of grace, and you got to jump on the moment and go towards the light. That's what it seems like. Question is, what does this have to do, Dafka, with the Beis HaMikdash? Why is it that the prayer of Tikkun Chatzot has to do with lamenting over the holy temple which is destroyed? That's the question that we have so far. So let's go further. When you love someone so much, the first sign of really loving someone is that you want to take away their pain, that you would do anything to relieve them from whatever pain that they're in. So if this is such a divine moment, if this is such a high moment in the clock, this happens every night. The moment that the light starts to come down and there's less of a concealment between you and your beloved, what are you crying over? What would you be most sensitive to? You'd be most sensitive to that which your lover is in pain over. That's what you'd be in utmost pain over. And this is such an interesting thing, such an interesting concept, because we always speak about this every year during Tisha B'Av, during the time of the 3 weeks, the 9 days. We always speak about how this time of Tisha B'Av, in order to really find a way into connecting into it. So we always speak about how if it's about my pain, it's not such a big deal. But if it's about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's pain, then it's a very big deal. We always say that Hashem, Yitbarach, has been homeless since the Churban Beis HaMikdash. We built small shuls, we built small temples, we built small schools, we kind of feel a bit at home. But when it comes to Hashem's pain, so to speak, so there's still a state on the space level that there's no place for God to show us how much he loves us. And some people can begin to understand that to mean that is what we're crying over. We're crying over the inability of our beloved to show us how much they love us. That's torturous. When you really love someone, and they want so badly, they want to express it to you, but they can't find the words or they don't feel comfortable, that hurts. So on a certain level, when Chatzot comes every single night, and the end of a certain level of darkness ends, and the beginning of an element of light begins, then what ends up happening is that I am more sensitive to what is hurting HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. And what is hurting God, so to speak, he doesn't have a place to show me how much he really loves me. And that's worth crying over. Because friends, let's face it, as much as we have emunah and we need a lot, we need many doses of emunah in order to believe that Hashem is constantly showing me how much he loves me. We don't even realize that we haven't tasted anything until the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt. Because when the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt, the clarity, the absolute clarity of how much Hashem truly is not just wants to express his love to us, but is expressing his love to us is crazy. So Beseder, I can understand something. Now, let's try to go a little bit deeper, and we're gonna try to climb this ladder as fast as we can with the short amount of time that we have. Everyone likes to speak about living here in the now, be here now. Like Richard Alpert was very much known for speaking about, be here now, right? Living in the now. Let me ask you, Chaver, if crying for something that happened 2,000 years ago, is that called living in the now? There's something a little bit bizarre. There's something a little bit weird over crying over something which is already 2,000 years old, and we're not even trying to resurrect exactly what was. We're trying to speak about some, we always talk about something new, v'sham nashir shir chadash, u'v'irnana na'aleh. So what is it, bichlal, that we're supposed to be crying over? And is it right to cry over something for so long? It seems that it doesn't make so much sense. Well, by asking this question and trying to address it through Rabbi Nachman, we will understand the depth of Tikkun Chatzot in a brand new way. So I would like you to look at the first paragraph that you have in front of you. And that's a paragraph, it's a small paragraph from a very long teaching, the 67th teaching in the second part of Likutei Moharan. Rabbi Nachman addresses exactly this question. Should you dwell on the past? You get up in the middle of the night, it's an Eit Ratzon, the gates are open, you're A'ira Shachar, you're awakening the dawn. You're connecting to King David, the wind that would come in through his window and begin playing melodies on his harp. And now you start crying over something that's 2,000 years old. So for anyone that gets stuck on things, this is a this is a vital teaching. Look at this. Not that any of us ever get stuck on things, but if you know anybody that gets stuck on things, it's good to tell them this Torah. Because all of us are perfected human beings. It's just for other people, right? Chaim. Vehine, ma she'avar ein. The holy temple was burnt. It was destroyed. It was nisraf. Whatever was, isn't now. But now, but God is anticipating coming back to us. He's anticipating that removal of all screens. And to come back and build our Beis HaMikdash, ra'ui lanu shelo le'akev chas v'shalom binyan Beis HaMikdash. Rabbi Nachman says, since we believe that God is anticipating the moment that he can appear to us in the manner that he wants to without any mechitzas, in a way that we can receive his love, then what is it appropriate from each and every one of us? We have to make sure that however we're living our lives, we're not me'akev. Me'akev means to prevent. It means to put aside. It means to stall, to keep things from moving forward. Each person has to make sure that they are not any obstacle, that they are not preventing the building of the Beis HaMikdash by any second. So what does that mean? Rak lishtadel bevinyano, to make sure you're doing whatever you can to build the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, Rabbi Nachman says, do you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to build the Beis HaMikdash? So Rabbi Nachman says like this, if you're for real, we're in the second line, therefore a person must be sure to get up at midnight, liot mitabel al churban Beis HaMikdash, to get up and to mourn over the churban of the Beis HaMikdash. Now, one of the reasons here he says he is really, really out there. Ki ulai bagilgul harishon, perhaps in your previous incarnation, hayahu hagorem sheicharav Beis HaMikdash. Maybe it was your fault. Maybe your sinas chinam is what tipped the scales. Your baseless hatred, perhaps it was you. You're the one that caused it to be. Maybe. Or maybe you're one of those three sins that brought down the first bite. Maybe that was you in your previous reincarnation. You have no idea. That's what he's saying here. Ulai bagilgul harishon hayahu hagorem sheicharav Beis HaMikdash. But va'afilu im lav, but even if not, even if it has nothing to do with your previous reincarnation, אולי הוא מעכב עתה בניין בית המקדש, ונחשב גם כן כאילו הוא גרם להחריבו. Our sages teach us that if every generation that's not busy in rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash, it's as if they destroyed it. So Rebbe Nachman says, how do you know that you're not in touch with your soul? How do you know that you're not ignoring something that your soul is screaming out to be fixed? And thus that's causing a prevention from the building of the Beis HaMikdash. Well, you don't know. So what are you supposed to do? If I never know if I'm the reason that the Beis HaMikdash isn't rebuilt now or in a previous incarnation, what are you supposed to do to find out if it is you? Or if you're doing everything you can to be part of the generation that's rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash? Rebbe Nachman says, Al ken tzarich lizaher me'od lakun bechatzos u'lios mis'abel me'od al churban Beis HaMikdash. So if you want to you want to know, do you want to discover? Do you want to know if inside, deep down inside, perhaps you are, God forbid, the one that's preventing the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash? Get up at Chatzos, mourn over the Churban of the Beis HaMikdash. V'Hashem Yisborach hiftiach lechol ha'mis'abel al Tzion lasum la'avalei Tzion pe'er tachat efer. God promised all those who are mourning over Zion, that it's a play on words here from Yeshaya Hanavi, that he will put glory over ashes, Efer. Pe'er and Efer. Glory is the word, same letters as the word Efer, the ashes. Rabbi Nachman didn't really say exactly yet, but I'm just going to repeat for those of you that are joining us now, or even for those of us that have to get this a little bit drilled a little bit deeper. If I want to make sure that I am not the cause that the Beis HaMikdash isn't being rebuilt right now, whether it's a previous incarnation or this one, or right now, if I want to be aware of what my tafkid is, Rabbi Nachman says the way to find out is by waking up in the middle of the night and crying over the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Somehow, that's how you will know. But he began this piece by saying, it's no use on crying up for what was. What you should be crying over isn't, what we once had. What you should be crying over is, I have to make sure that I'm not the one that's preventing the will of God to be revealed. That I got to do my gig. I must take care of my chaylik to make sure that there isn't schmutz in my life that I'm ignoring. I got to make sure that there isn't this inyan that I keep on pushing off and I keep on saying, I have till tomorrow, I have the next year, whatever it is. I have to make sure I'm doing whatever I'm doing so that I won't be considered as if I'm from those that prevented the Beis HaMikdash from happening. Because Rebbe Nachman says, you have to live in a state of mind that God is looking forward, like he said in the beginning, mitzapeh lashuv eleinu. Hashem Yisborach is anticipating, he's looking forward to come back and being in our midst and showering us with tremendous, tremendous love. That's what God is anticipating. You want to be on the side that helps the Ribono Shel Olam, so to speak. Make sure that he can let us know how much he loves us. And Rabbi Nachman says that when you get up and you cry over the Beis HaMikdash, meaning you're trying to make sure that you're not from those that are preventing the Beis HaMikdash from being rebuilt, something else happens. So this is a piece from, look at the next paragraph. This is from the 101st teaching in the Kutei Maharan. Rabbi Nachman says, Al Yidei Amiras Tikun Chatzos, by getting up in the middle of the night and saying the Tikun Chatzot, Yecholim lefaresh sichato et kol asher im levavo. Rabbi Nachman says, when you get up in the middle of the night to say these words, crying over the Beis HaMikdash, what you're basically doing is that you're crying over something that's worthy for crying over. Generally, when we cry and when we kvetch, it's over things that really, in essence, they're not worth crying over. I think last year we had a shir, it was called Tears That Matter, Tears That Don't. Mashu kazeh. I'll try to find it. And it was speaking about this concept of how often do we cry over things that are really worthy of being cried over. So when you're crying over the Beis HaMikdash, Rabbi Nachman says you can begin to understand yourself. Lefaresh sichato et kol asher im levavo. You can start making sense to yourself. Now, in the teachings of Rabbi Nachman on Hisbodedus, that's what Rabbi Nachman says is a key function of Hisbodedus, that when you go out to the field and you talk to God, as much as you may think it's like in order to let God know where you're at, when you hear your own voice and you're in touch with what's important in life, and then you start speaking about it, do you know what kind of a consolation it is to the soul when you start understanding what bothers you in the world? When you start to understand what you actually want from life? Like, what do you want from life? What do you want to be doing here? What kind of a relationship do you want with people, with yourself, with your children, with your spouse, with Hashem? What do you want? So that becomes clearer. That becomes clearer, much more clearer, through Hisbodedus, through Tikkun Chatzos. Ki mistama, Reb Nachman says, ein omrim Chatzos al ha'avar. This is so deep. Chatzot, this moment of Chatzot, where we said it's the beginning moment of the next part of the day. It's the moment the night is split into two, and it's part of the next part of the day. If, let's say, Chatzot was 12 a.m., right? You're in the a.m. zone in your mind and in your soul and in your heart. You're not in the p.m., 11:40, 11:50, 11:55. You're in the a.m., you're already into what is next. You're not going to be stuck and kvetching over what once was. And Masha Haya, Haya. But Reb Nachman says, Ikar Amiras Chatzos, hu al Masha Nasa Achshav im Adam. Chatzot is all about being in touch with what's happening with me now. Am I right now going to be responsible? Am I taking charge? Am I grabbing enough guts to look inside, deep inside, as to who I am and what I'm all about and what I want from life? Rabbi Nachman says that's what Chatzot is all about. When you say Chatzot, with the realization on a timeline where you're at, יכולים למצוא כל אשר עם לבבו בתוך אמירת חצות. You can find out everything that is deep in your heart when you say the lamentations over the Holy Temple at Chatzot, because of this moment in time that's so blissful, because of this moment in time that represents sunlight of redemption, like the title of a sefer of a dear friend of mine, Rabbi Yaakov Klein. When these things are taking place in our lives, I feel encouraged to go for it. I feel encouraged that despite the fact that it may be painful to think about where I could be a stumbling block towards the road of redemption, I'd rather do that than continue to walk in the blind. The PM hours getting later and later, I continue to walk into the darkness, into the abyss of darkness. Chatzos comes whenever that time is exactly, which we should have a whole shiur on how to calculate that exactly. Chatzot comes, and I split that time into two, and I'm like, sorry, that was that. Now, third Beis Hamikdash. Now it's about where I could be, what could be. Not what could have been, but rather what could be right now. You discover this through Hisbodedus. You discover this through Tikkun Chatzos as well. Rabbi Nassim would always take the teachings of Rabbi Nachman and bring them all together. He would expound on them as well, but one of the teachings that we have over here on the bottom of the page is from Likutei Halachot, Hilchos Edus Perek Hey. Reb Nassim, Reb Nachman's Talmud says like this: V'al ken kshero'eh ha'adam orech galus nafsho v'churbano. When a person gets a taste of how long is the exile of his soul and the destruction of his own soul, ad shenistam mimeno ketz geulas nafsho, kmo shenistam ketz ha'geula shel klal Yisrael. When a person is aware that they cannot see the end of their suffering, they can't. They're looking at their lives. They would love to see light at the end of the tunnel, and they can't. Chatzos comes, and they say to themselves, you know what, I'm supposed to believe that now it's getting light, but there's a question, there's been an elephant on the screen this whole shiur. Because it doesn't start to get light in Chatzot, right? When does it start to get actually light? In fact, it gets much darker on a physical realm after Chatzot. Some of the darkest hours are right before dawn. It's not in the middle of the night that it's the darkest. But on a timeline, it's light of emunah that I have to tap into to believe that even though I don't see the light beginning to rise, I'm on my way towards it. Rebbe Nachman says many times, you and I look at our lives, we're waiting for Chatzos. Chatzos comes and it's still dark. That which we thought would be the gate opener for my soul to start shining, to feel hope, to see a better day, that's not happening. And not just that, I can't even think of good times for Am Yisrael, too. You know, I'm sure I don't have to tell you, but many, many people in the world are stuck in a really dark place. And I'm not just talking about all the refuah shleimas that everyone should have, please God, and also parnasa that people should have, those that are suffering. But we're talking about looking at the world globally, looking at the state of the world, looking at the state of Am Yisrael. It's very much this, like Reb Nachman says, Ro'eh Adam orech galut nafsho v'churbano ad shenistam mimenu keitz geulas nafsho. I can't even see the end of this. I can't see when are people going to start to be nice again? When are people going to start believing in each other again? When are people going to care less about who you vote for and care more about people's hearts? This morning I heard something that broke my heart. Broke my heart about a family member who took himself off of all his WhatsApp groups from other members of the family because of their political opinions. Now siblings stop talking to each other. Where's the end of this? So Reb Nachman says over here, Tzarich lasum lalibo, put something into your heart at this moment. Shebevadai Hashem yizbarach imo gam ata. You can't see it. Chatzot came and it's passing, and you still don't feel that anything is really changing. Just realize something. God is with you right now. Bevadai tavo geulas hanefesh hu bechinas binyan beis hamikdash. Nachman says that even if you can't see the builders building the Beis HaMikdash, even if you can't see the people that are removing the screens of darkness in your own life, even if you can't see it, Nachman says a person has to remember that in those moments, if you're able to grab the Ribono Shel Olam and put him deep into your heart, and be very clear as to, yes, it's true, I don't see any light, it's all darkness, it's very hard. At that moment, you are goel your own nefesh, you're redeeming your own soul. At that moment, the Beis HaMikdash literally is being rebuilt at that moment, which means that at that moment, you're making space for your beloved to let them know, to let you know how much they love you. Like we began shiur. One of the cruelest things that may happen in the world is when people are prevented the privilege from letting each other know that they love each other. That is called galut. That's galut. That's exile. Geula is making space for people to let each other know that they love each other. Simple as it is. When do we make space in our lives? Chatzot. Chatzot is a time to cry over, to make sure that I am not preventing the Ribono Shel Olam's light from shining in the world. Maybe it's also this inyan of taking upon ourselves, Be'ez Hashem, that if there's someone that you're not sure is aware of how much you love them, that tomorrow you let them know. Tomorrow you let them know. Or right now you let them know. Don't wait. But that may be the whole game here. The whole game here is making sure you let people know how much you love them. And that's suppose Be'ezer Hashem will kind of open the gates for the Ribono Shel Olam to also be able to let us know, I've been waiting for so long to tell you how much you mean to me. And that day will come, friends, when it'll be clear to us, we will see and hear, us and the whole world will hear and see that the Ribono Shel Olam loves us, has, and always loved us. He just put us in this world for one reason, make a space. Widen narrowness, Bein HaMetzarim. We're in the narrowness, widen them. Widen them. So chatzot, like we said in the beginning of the shir, comes from the word chatza, which means to cut through. But it also comes from the word chetzi, which means a half, which is what we always try to remind ourselves, is that in our lives, we always, the whole point of self-nullification and of ego being minimized, or not minimized, but putting in its place, is to realize, without you, the Ribono Shel Olam, I am not just half, without you, I'm absolutely nothing. Nothing. That's humbling. We're scared of that because we're scared we're going to lose our self-identity, when anyone that's ever tasted it knows that you only gain your real true self-identity when you're willing to let go of that control. That moment of the middle of the night presents the beautiful opportunity for you and I to actually be connected to what we really are. We're just pieces of Hashem trying to make it in this world. I bless us all with an infinite amount of Rahmanas and Neshamas. I give us a bracha to wake up one of these nights of Chatzos till Tisha B'Av, and that we should always be privileged that our tears and our worries should be over one thing and one thing only. Master of the world, what am I ignoring about my own deal? Ribono Shel Olam, where am I in my life preventing you from letting me and the rest of the world know that you love me so, so much? Thanks so much, friends. Laila Tov. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Sheibana Beis HaMikdash b'mehera b'yameinu kvar achshav.